Alright, so we're back for our second design for the lollipop tree holders. We've got the alligator for this one. So for the alligator, we need the other scallop piece that's on both sides. We need this little twine ribbon here. You need the rectangle pieces. It's supposed to go all the way across. Oops. Of this blue one and the whisper white here. So, and for your colors, we need the watercolor pencils, the Bermuda Bay, the blue. You need the real red for his little hearts up here. Then the green one, which is Old Olive. And we need the brown one, Early Espresso. And then you need, of course, his stamp. And you need the Hey Love from the same stamp set. Also, don't forget your blender pen and your black ink pad. Okay, so let's start off with inking him up. Now for this one, so this is gonna be the front. It's gonna be up here. Get him as close to the bottom as you possibly can. And his tail is gonna come off a little bit, so make sure you have a scrap paper underneath. So make sure you get his nose on there. And press down. Hold it with these two fingers and then use one finger to press down in the center. Lift off. Okay. And while you've got your ink pad out, get this piece. And your Hey Love stamp. And that's going to go right in the middle. Make sure you don't rock. And lift right off. There we go. Alright, on to coloring. So close up your ink pad. So let's start with the green. So the same thing with this one as we did with the skunk. Go where you think the shadows are going to be. Go a little thicker. So probably around his mouth, under his mouth, around his teeth. It's going to be a bit darker. And see these little humps here too? Shadows will be in between. Then on his nose. And then under his arm, it's going to be dark. And probably a bit around his belly too. And that crease in his leg. Under his foot. And of course under his tail. And right here too. This leg sticking out. And put some on his hat. Now for the rest of his body, go a little lighter. Just get some green. See how light I'm going? Show this. Just real light strokes. And don't worry about there being lines, because when you do that blender pen, it's gonna fill in where your lines were. We're just making sure that green's gonna go where it needs to go. Now for his scales, I used the green too, but if you notice, I don't know if you can tell, but there's a bit of brown there too. So I went over, I did green, just a light coating of green on his scales. And now, get your brown, the early espresso. What I did for the brown, I just went on top of those lines. And did a thick coat of brown in between those lines. So that's how I leave it. I leave a little white space in between. Now back on his scales, I go over his scales with the brown. And that gives it kind of a different shadings, a unique color. Now we're done with the brown. Let's get the blue now, the Bermuda Bay, and color his hat. And that's all I did. I just did a little bit on the bottom. And now for the red, you just cover it completely in the red. Because if you don't cover it, it turns out looking a little more pinky, peachy color. And now we're done. What you need now is just the blender pen. So like I said, remember, get a scrap piece, do this before you start coloring. We'll start with the green first. See how those lines are disappearing now? Never told that it was sloppy coloring. And don't forget this little hand that's sticking out underneath. And try not to color in his eyes. Or his teeth. Go real careful around his teeth. Now his eyelids. And now let's do his scales. So that brown is just mixing in with the green, giving it this murky kind of color. Go over and do his belly. Around his hands, be a little careful. Alright, now I would definitely clean your pen. Make sure all that rounds off. I'm going to do the blue hat. Clean it off again. And do the red hearts. And clean it off. That way it's ready for the next time you start coloring. Alright, next thing, all we gotta do is now assemble pieces. So you will need your snail. Remember what I said about the little cap being towards the table. To take the Hey Valentines and do a strip down the center. And take the little blue piece. And you put that down the middle. Now there's not going to be a piece on the edge hanging off. It's just going to be flat, right along with the edges of the tree holder. Now this is going to go above his head, right on top here. Make sure you don't get it on crooked. There we go. Now fold. See these little folding lines? Just fold those in real quick on both sides. And take your twine here and you'll fold that in half. Just make sure it's even. And you will stick that through the back here, this little loop that goes right through there. Yep. And you'll pull these strings through, just like we did with the skunk holder. And there you go. This one's finished. See you with the 3x3 cards.